Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today we are doing Red Team Recon. This box is pretty simple, pretty easy, but it also is an extremely useful box that you should definitely understand and be able to complete very easily. So first things first, if you guys are liking this path, make sure you hit that sub button, hit the little bell notifications so that way you guys actually get notifications on the boxes. And also check out the Patreon, guys. Check out the Patreon and the YouTube membership. They get exclusive content. It's a lot of fun. We're doing some cool stuff over there, and we're completing some certification paths and things like that. So make sure you guys check it out if you like this content. Thank you guys so much for the support. We're almost to 2K, so thank you guys again. Now let's go ahead and hop right into it. So Red Team Recon. All right, so this is huge. So we've covered Recon, we've covered OSINT, we've covered all that stuff in the past on the channel, but Red Team Recon is a little bit different because you kind of have a scope, right? It's like a pen test, but a pen test will allow you to step outside that scope a little bit in the sense that you can do a lot of OSINT and stuff like that. Well, red teaming is a little bit more refined in the sense that you probably have a timeline on it, right? Because you're going to be doing a red team, blue team, either an exercise or something like that. So you may have a limited time and you may have to take your passive reconnaissance and narrow it down just on lack of time. So let's go ahead and check it out. All right, so this is what we're going to cover today. I'm not going to talk about it. You guys can read, hopefully. All right, so we've got reconnaissance room. It can be classified into passive and active reconnaissance. So what is the difference? This is something that a lot of people get mixed. They think it's a gray area, and it's not. It's very, very simple. If you interact with the target in any facet, meaning you scan one port, you check if it's online, you do anything that actually reaches out and touches that, you are now doing active reconnaissance. You are no longer doing passive. And keep in mind that in some places, even touching that target before that scope says is illegal. So let's say you have a red team exercise going on, or a red team thing that you're doing with the company, or even a pen test, and you go through it, and in it says, hey, on August 21st, we're going to start our active reconnaissance, and on August 15th through the 21st, we're going to be doing all passive reconnaissance, right? And then you start doing scans on the 18th, and you scan that target, and it breaks something, right? And this sounds dramatic, but this actually happens, okay? So let's say you're scanning and your target is a hospital, and you bring down a server that now they can't do surgery and it costs somebody's life. You are now liable for that. You are, because you stepped outside of your scope and you did not do what you were supposed to do. So keep in mind with hacking, it doesn't matter if you have express written permission to hack something. If the date is different or if the times are different, you did not have permission to do what you did. So keep that in mind. All right. So active reconnaissance versus passive, like we said, active is touching it. Now, passive reconnaissance is just checking open sources, checking online, checking for previous websites, checking for any of that stuff that is actually out there, public information, even walking by the building and just looking around, maybe using some binoculars and looking to see how you could get in and stuff. That's all passive. You're not actually touching anything. You're not actually going in. Now, if you walked into the building to see where the security cameras are and stuff like that, you're now actively targeting it, okay? So here is external recon, and this is the active, okay? This is conducted outside the target's network. So, for instance, if you were to run a scan from outside the company's network into the network, or the external facing, that's external recon. Now, internal, obvious. If you ran a scan inside the network, right, that's internal. All right, so built-in tools. Now, most of you guys know these tools and should know these tools. These are Whois, Dig, DNS Lookup, Host, Traceroute, and Tracer. Okay, so these are all tools that you should be very familiar with, because every target you try and actually attack, if it has an external facing, application, website, whatever, you should be doing this, okay? Now, Whois Lookup. If you guys aren't familiar with Whois Lookup, you can do the actual Whois. There's also sites. Whois Lookup, I think, is actually the name of the site. But all of this is public information. When you register a website, so let's say you start tomorrow and you start stuffy.com. If you register that website, it will automatically go up and be public information. The reason for that is because you have to share this information in order to update public DNS records, right? DNS, if you want people to route to your website without having to memorize the IP address, they have to get it in DNS, right? And most people use Google DNS and things like that. So in order to put it there, you have to register your website with a legitimate registrar, okay? And that's what they're saying, is this is all information that's public. Now, you can see in this screenshot, though, they have a lot of information sitting here, right? So register abuse contact, you have the actual who actually, the register URL, when it was updated, blah, blah, blah. And then usually you have, the city, street, all that stuff. That's usually a headquarters of a building. So let's say a company doesn't even give you the headquarters, you could find it here. Now, keep in mind, a lot of places like large-scale corporations that are very security-oriented, they might actually have some of this information redacted, okay? So it might say registrant city, and then this is all whited out. That means they don't want to share that information. It's registered, but they're not going to give you that information. There's some information you can pull back, okay? All right. So that's who is. So dig, and here you go, domain information groper, or dig. Provides a lot of query options and even allows you a different DNS server to use. So example here, boom. They're using a different DNS server. They're using 1111. It's just a way to change some things. It's no big deal. All right, and you can see what you're going to get here. You're just going to get some information. Boom, boom, boom. You're getting some A records and DNS, so it's just pretty easy. All it's doing is allowing you to check other sources so that you can check other DNS sources. Host. So here's another alternative way for querying DNS servers. So you can do host, and it's going to give you back, as long as the DNS server that you're trying to query has it, it's going to give you back the results. So dig actually allows you to change the DNS server. Host, it's showing here that it's going to give you the results of what's in that DNS server, okay? All right. Now, final tool is traceroute or tracert. You guys should have used this at some point in your lives. Basically, it's going to trace all the hops that you take to whatever your target is. So let's say this gateway, that would probably be your router. And then from there, it's going to go to your ISP's central office. Then it's going to go from that router to another switch, to another router, then to another central office, and and it's going to keep going across the country or world until it gets there. Now, you can see these stars. That means they are not going to give you those results. Those are probably your ISP, and they're saying, we're not going to give you that information. We're going to stop you from seeing our routers. Now, this is important to know because, number one, you might actually hit their router before you go into their network, and it may give you the information. So now you have their external router IP, and then you also have an internal IP. Now, keep in mind when doing this, though, that this shows that you may actually be touching some stuff that you didn't realize you're touching, right? So let's say you have a man-in-the-middle attack happening, right? Or something like that, and you see an IP in here, and you check it out, and it's not by an actual ISP, it's just a regular IP address. Someone might be in the middle of you, checking it out. So keep that stuff in mind. All right, so now, okay, so here's how we can actually use it. We're going to show you. So when was thmredteam.com registered? Now, all we have to do is say who is, and then thmredteam.com. And look at all this information we get. I mean, we get a ton of information on this. I just realized their admin email here. And now here's another thing to keep in mind that people utilize this for. So if you do who is, some of you might say, well, this is whatever information. But you notice they have different emails here, okay? Like withheld for privacy. So you can see this is actually withheld for privacy. So they don't want to give it to you. Now, if it wasn't, we actually now have emails where we could start sending spam links, and we also have their email format. So let's say the registrant email, the guy registered it, his name was John Smith. It might be john.smith@thmredteam.com. Now we know if we find anyone that's employed with them, we can just do bob.ross@thmredteam.com, and that's an email, right? So keep that in mind. Okay, so now what we're looking for is when was it created? So here's the creation date, 2021, 9/24. And it actually gives you the exact time. So there's the creation date. Now, how many IPv4 addresses does clinic.thm red team resolve to? Now, what we can do here is we can just do host, if you remember, because it actually gives us the IP addresses that it resolves to. So thmredteam.com. And you see here we have 4 addresses. Now, of these 4, only 2 of them are IPv4, those 2, and then 2 of them are IPv6. There you go. Now, okay, so we moved on. Those are simple tools that you're going to start pulling information. Now, we did on the Patreon way back when, one of the first scripts we created was a script that we're still editing, but basically on that, it was a script that does this stuff for you. So it's actually really cool. You put the target in, and it'll save these in reports. It'll be like who is lookup report, dig report, blah, blah, blah. And it puts them all into folders for you. So that way you run this script, you walk away, you come back, and you have these OSINT reports that you don't have to actually look at, okay? Now, advanced searching, being able to use the search engine efficiently is a crucial skill. Yes, it is. So we've done the Google dorking on this site, or on this channel, on this channel before, and then on the Patreon we've dug in and shown how to make target lists with Google dorking and things like that. So keep that stuff up in your head when you're thinking of this, of what you're going to do with Google dorking, because that's all they're teaching us here is Google dorking, and it's how to use a search engine proficiently. I don't know what's going on with me today. I'm tired, I guess. Okay. So you can see here, this Google hacking database will give you queries that people have already created that have good ideas. So in title, index of, nginx.log. This discovers nginx logs. It might reveal server misconfigurations, right? Well, you would put then whatever website you're looking and then put this in, and it would give you those if they have them, right? So keep that stuff in mind, that this is the type of stuff that you can actually do with Google dorking, and you can get pretty granular and pretty specific with it. Now, they just ask real quick, but we're going to go back to that. Now, social media, I'll tell you right now, social media is the worst thing that's ever happened to cybersecurity. Why? Because people don't understand what to post and what not to post. I can tell you right now, every time I start an engagement, I'm going to find somebody that works there. I'm going to go to their social media, and 99% of the time I'm going to find something that helps me, whether they're wearing a badge in one of their photos, whether they're standing by the building in one of their photos, whether they're taking a picture of their desk in one of the photos, anything. They're going to post something about work, even if it just says what their job title is. That's helpful, okay? So keep that in mind. I know I say keep that in mind a lot, but I actually, when I say it, what I'm doing is kind of like a foot stomp, saying that's important to know. Some of the stuff is more important than others, so that's why I say that. So job ads. This is another thing. There's a couple of things to talk about here. So with job ads give you so much information about a company, because if you look at the job ad and it's a security admin position, right, or a system administration position or anything like that, it's going to list things they're looking for, like, hey, we're looking for AWS experience, or we're looking for Azure experience, or we're looking for Nessus experience, whatever. They're listing to you what tools they use. Like, I don't think you necessarily understand that. They're listing to you. So if you don't work there, they're saying, here's the tools we use. So now if you know how to prevent getting caught by some of those tools, there you go. So keep that stuff in mind also. And then also the job ads, one thing to watch out for if you're on the other side, if you're hiring people, is there are a lot of people from other countries, and I'm sure it happens in America a lot, but it's a little easier to get caught in America. But there's a lot of people from other countries that apply for positions, and all they're trying to do is get a foot in the door. So look out for red flags in interviews. Keep that stuff, close to the chest, because I'm serious. That's a very big thing happening now. There's also a lot of people offering jobs that aren't real, that are just trying to get information. So they'll say, hey, here's a job we have, but we need proof that you're good at what you do. So show us some of the stuff you've done before with your current position. All right. So now, how would you search using Google for XLS indexed for clinic. Okay, so this is easy. You just do file type because they're giving us the file type and it's XLS. And then the site itself, we do site clinic.thmredteam.com, and you can see here the file type and then the site itself. Now, if you put it the other way around, I don't think it'll work. So put the file type first and then site. I don't think it. When I say I don't think it'll work in Google, but it won't work here in this answer bar. So now, how would you search Google for files with the word passwords? Well, you just search passwords, just like Google, and then you'd say on the site clinic.thmredteam.com. So what that means is you're searching for the keyword of passwords like normal on Google, but you're only going to get the results back that are with the site clinic.thmredteam.com. All right. Now, specialized search engines. We've covered some of these in the past, but you can see here, viewdns.info. It offers reverse IP lookups, so you can actually put an IP address in there, and it gives you the domain name for it. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is, yes, everyone knows that IP addresses change, but what people don't realize is that you might go to yahoo.com. Now, yahoo.com has a list of IPs they use, so that's not a good example. But like right here, this 138ei.com, they might go there on Monday, and you might type the IP address in instead of the domain name, and it takes you to 138ei.com. Well, then you go there Tuesday, and you type the IP address in instead of the domain name, and it might take you to, this 16monkeys.com. Why? Because when they're changing them out, other people are using them. So one IP address could be used by a bunch of people over time. And that's what they're showing here. Viewdns.info shows what domain names are registered to those IP addresses. And then you can see the last resolved. All right. So now you have Threat Intel Platform. This requires you to provide a domain name and IP address, and it launches a series of tests for you. So it launches the whois, the dig, and stuff like that, and tries to give you back information if it can find it. Now, you can see here, there is extra information that you get rather than just running whois and dig, is what they're saying. So you can see the name servers records were resolved to their respective IPv4 and IPv6 addresses. So that's nice. So not only are you getting the actual name servers, but you're getting which IP belongs to which one, whereas before they were just getting just the name servers. Okay, so now on the other hand, if you search for cafe.blah, you also get a list of other domains on the same IP address. So again, you're going to get domains that also use that same IP address. So that way, there's a couple of reasons they do that, but the main thing to focus on when red teaming is keep that in mind, because if they give you this domain name to attack, and you do an NS lookup on it and find out, hey, that domain name is IP address whatever, and you go, okay, jot that down. Next week, we're going to start the actual attack. Make sure that IP address is still the correct one that you should be attacking, because the IP address might be different now. So now you might be attacking someone that you don't have permission to attack, and that is common. So keep that stuff you want to organize, you want to understand what's going on when you're doing these engagements, because that can get you into some serious legal trouble quickly. All right, now census search can provide a lot of information about IP addresses and domain. In this example, we look up one of the IP addresses, cafe, whatever, again, and what it resolves to. So you can easily infer the IP address belongs to Cloudflare. So Cloudflare is a very popular service, and you guys can see here that it's clear that this IP address is used to server websites other than cafe.thmredteam as well. So what that means, it belongs to a company that's not our client. So this IP address belongs to Cloudflare, not Organic Cafe, meaning if I attack that IP address and Cloudflare says that's going to this company now, you are attacking the wrong person. So you need to make sure you don't probe systems outside the scope of your contract, because what did I say at the beginning? Sometimes it's illegal even to scan a site that you don't have permission to do. So there you go. You could be doing a totally legal engagement, having a good time, having fun doing red teaming, and next thing you know, you're in court because you scanned the wrong site. Okay. Now, Shodan, everyone should be familiar with Shodan. We've done the Shodan room here. Basically, Shodan, they're having you do the command line, and we create a script on either the channel or Patreon. I can't remember, with Shodan as well. But basically, Shodan is going to go ahead and it scans the internet all day long. Boom, boom, boom. And then you can search for different ports, IPs, domain names. Shodan can do a multitude of things, but it's a huge tool for OSINT because it's like Google, but it only searches for vulnerabilities and domain names and IPs. So, excuse me, what is the Shodan command to get your internet facing IP address? That is Shodan and then my IP. Now, you could just load up Shodan or run the command if you have it installed and say help and it would give it to you, or you can go to the Shodan site and they'll give you that command. All right. Now, Recon NG. All right, Recon NG is a very big tool for OSINT as well. If you guys have never used it, it's very, very popular. Basically, this is how Recon works. I'm not going to read it to you specifically. It runs a database. You can see here, you do Recon NG, and then you say W. That's the workspace. So if you don't put W, it just defaults. That's fine. You can have it defaulted. And then you can see they did a workspace called THM Red Team. Now, from here, you can actually start doing things, installing modules. The modules themselves are the things that actually do what you want it to do. So you can see here when you do marketplace search, it gives you a list of all these modules. Now, these are just the ones with domains in the name, and it gives you all these. Now, on the right here, you see the K. If it has a star by it, that means it requires a key. So you must already have an API key or have an account with them that generates one. Now, the D, that is for dependencies. So if the stars have a dependency, that means you may have to download a third-party tool like a Python library or something like that, Flask, something. Okay, so now that's perfect. So working with installed modules. So once you have it installed, you load it, and you notice it's just like Metasploit kind of, where it starts to push all of the different names here for you to see, and then you'd run it. So this module has queried Google and discovered 2 hosts. Okay, cool. So here's an actual video if you want to look at it. Now, how do you start Recon NG with the workspace Clinic Red Team? So we can go ahead and do that. So Recon NG, I'm not going to start it with that. Actually, it doesn't really matter because this isn't my box, but now we'll do Recon NG -TAC W Clinic Red Team. So that's our workspace now. And you can see, boom. So now we're in Clinic Red Team. Now, how many modules with the name Virus Total exist? Well, we know we can say Marketplace, search, and then we can say Virus Total. And we hit enter, and look at that. We've got 2. So there you go, 2. And both of them require an API key. Okay, cool. So now there's a single module under host domain. What is its name? So let's go ahead and do the search, Marketplace, and we're going to say hosts domain. I did marketplace search, not hosts domain. All right, and you can see there's only one, and the actual module is migrate hosts. Awesome. Now, census email address is a module that retrieves email addresses from the TLS certificate for a company. Who's the author? Now, all you have to do here is marketplace, and you can see these right here. They're giving them to you. Where is it? Right here. There it is, marketplace. And so they gave us the module, so all we have to do is marketplace info right there. So we do marketplace info, and there's the module is census email address. And when you hit enter, it gives you information about it. Now the author, census team. Perfect. Now you can see here, we'd have to actually search it. But if we search it, we can see if it has dependencies or the key. So this is what you're going to be doing. You want to know what the modules do before you actually just run them, right? Because that's how you get in trouble, is when you just start running stuff and you have no idea what you're actually doing. So always check the info to see what it's going to do. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and minimize this because I think that's the last one. But all right, now Maltego. Maltego is one of the best tools out there for OSINT, bar none. Everybody knows Maltego. Everybody likes Maltego. Now, Maltego, here's what they do. You give them an entity. So you drag and drop your entity. Your entity could be a computer, a domain name, a IP address, a company, anything you want, right? And then it does this, what they call transform. So different entities have different transform options. This is just what they're going to search for to give you the results, okay? So this is the algorithm, if you will. So when I say that, for instance, if I give you a DNS name, so if I say, hey, cafe.thmredteam.com, and I put it in there, and then I do a transform to IP address, it will go on the internet and find, it'll do NS lookup and all that, and find the IP addresses for you. Now you have the IP addresses, okay? So here it is. Now you do a transform, and the transform goes right here in the module, and then it would give you the IP addresses. Now you're saying, okay, cool, that's great. So now what? Well, now we do the transform, we have the IP addresses. Now let's do a transform with that IP address and find domain names with that IP address. And then look, we've got 5 more. And you can just keep building out this grid, and all of these things are linked together in a sense. So you can start watching patterns on the internet and see things. You can see here, look at this. They have THM Red Team, that's where we started. Now they have all of these. They have abuse at namecheap.com. If you remember, that was in our Whois records. That's an email that's in Whois records, but that is redacted. You have Namecheap Inc., so that tells you some information. They have the locations. They have telephone numbers. They have all of this. And then you can see over here, the name servers go to Cloudflare, and then you have IP addresses for that. So look how you could build this out for a target, huge, and you'd have so much information about that target. But you'd also get a lot of information about other things that are correlated with them as well. So keep that in mind. Now, here is the nice thing about Maltego. You can get free transforms with the Community Edition, or you can pay and get some upgraded transforms. And you can see the featured ones are going to be the paid for. And then you can, actually no, the featured is not because they have it checked for free. But if you just went to all and got rid of free, you would see all the non-free ones, which are really cool. You can start doing some really crazy stuff. Now, what is the name of the transform that queries in NIST's National Vulnerability Database? And let's see if we see it on here. I don't see it on here. So what we have to do is go to Maltego's Transform Hub and find, and we could search it, but I know it's only down here. It's not very far. NIST NVD right there. So you could just search NIST if you want, but NIST NVD right there. What is the name of the transform that queries NIST National Vulnerability Database? And then what is the name of the project that offers a transform based on attack framework? Now, I could go in here and I could actually search it and find it, but I noticed it's right here. Attack MISP, but it's asking, if you notice, what is the name of the project? And you can see by MISP project. So MISP project right there. All right, guys, that's it. Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you guys take something away from this. The biggest things to take away are pretty much understand what you're doing before you do it, because passive reconnaissance turns into active really fast, and you do not want to be that guy that accidentally does something and has to reach out to a company and say, oops, or say, hey, I need to get my lawyer, right? That's not where you want to be. Make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you understand the tools you're using. And also, have fun, man. Hacking is fun. It is a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys have fun. Hopefully you guys have a great day. Thanks, guys.